Hey, welcome to the Big Draw 2023. I'm here with Carl Wilson. I'm sat in the lovely Kirkleatham Museum in the Lobster and Pots exhibition at the moment. So there's a nice lovely big boat around me. We're going to be drawing some characters today. Thanks very much for watching. It's really real pleasure to just be here. I can't wait to have a look around this exhibition. I've got a few seagulls watching me, so there's no pressure. So, just loading my slides for you here. So, my name's Carl Wilson. I work as an illustrator and an animator. My pen name is by Boo Boo. It was just a nickname that was given to me a few years ago by some friends, and it kind of stuck. So, I illustrate and animate a lot of different things. The focal point for today is going to be working with characters. So those of you who see my work, or may not have seen my work, this is something that I've been interested in for quite a while, since being quite a young child. I grew up playing lots of Nintendo games, so I draw in 2D. I started off drawing in black and white. Here's just some early examples of simple characters that I drew in lockdown, to be honest. And then I started drawing loads more with colour. So I draw very, very graphically, very bold. Sometimes the word simple is brought up. However, there's a lot of theory and design that goes into what it is that I draw. So I'm going to share some of that with you today, and some sort of insights into work. I think it's a nice thing to be able to share with younger people in terms of what it is that you can do as an artist, or what you can do as a career for a job. Lots of us have grown up with people saying you can't make money out of doing art, and it's nice to be able to sit in front of you and say, hey, well actually we can. So just going back to the Nintendo kind of content, yeah, I grew up playing lots of 2D pixel games, and I think it's why maybe that's where my interest in drawing characters like this comes from. I draw a lot of characters as well that are, I would say, quite friendly, quite positive. I don't draw any nasty kind of artwork. I think for me it's just like a nice way to just sit and relax. One thing you'll probably notice about the artwork that I do is the shapes that I use are very, very curvy. So we're going to work today using very, very simple shapes. Not going to be anything too complex. I would say my drawing ability isn't fantastic, but as I say, the thoughts and the process that go into creating these is kind of, I guess, what people like. There's a bit of a charm to it. I did start off kind of drawing on pens and paper, so I'm going to be working with both mediums today. If you're here with a digital iPad or a computer, fantastic. I'm going to go between the both. I'm going to be going between Procreate on the iPad, and I'm going to be using pens and paper. If you draw anything and you want to share it with me, feel free to tag me on Instagram. It'd be great to see what it is that you draw. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here, so thank you very much for joining. So, something that I like doing when I start drawing is having a bit of a warm-up. I can't just jump straight into going and drawing characters as much as I want to. It's just not cohesive, really. I like to just relax into things. So I'm stealing an exercise off an artist called John Bergerman, but I've used this for years. I work as a lecturer in 2 universities that are local, and I like to do this with students because I think it loosens you up, first of all, with your drawing. It's also just a bit of fun. So you see on the slide that I've got on my iPad currently, I've got a warm-up, loose drawing and finding characters, and then a very strange word. That's called pareidolia. What that word means is seeing faces and things that aren't meant to be faces. So if you think about a car has lights, a car has a bumper. We look at things as faces because of the form of the human face. So if you think about the shape of a human face, it's made up of two circles, a triangle, and a square. So we can be quite clever with just those shapes, and that's what I'm going to be sitting and doing with you today. It may be an exercise that you've heard of before, maybe something that you're new to. This really helped me, and it does help me when I'm drawing pieces of work. Just share with you an example. So when I'm creating a character, I don't kind of draw it in one way and then it's done. You'll see from on the screen that things are drawn in lots and lots of different ways, quite repetitive sometimes, which doesn't ever get boring because it feels like you're doing a jigsaw, it feels like you're trying to find the right fit. So I use the word empathy, and the reason that I use that is because I think when you look at a character's face, you can make people think and feel different ways and depend on the formation and the shapes that you use. So just going back to the shapes that we'll use, nothing too complex. So if we think circle, two circles, a triangle and a rectangle. So we'll start off with circle, triangle, circle, rectangle. This will be translated later into, let's move this little guy out of the way. This will be translated later into working with different shapes. So to start off, feel free to draw any size, any scale. If I number this one number 1, I'm going to come to number 2. Now, if we think about the word space and we think about the word shapes, let's take these eyes here and instead of drawing them big and far apart or big and narrow together, let's go really small, like that. Let's use that triangle and place that in the middle. Let's place the rectangle down here. I did promise you not loads of drawing ability necessary right now. As I say, you can translate this into your own characters, into your own shapes, into your own colours, which I'll do in a moment myself. So at the moment we've got two different formations of shapes there. I'm just going to add a third one here. So I'm going to go big eyes. We'll go little nose. And we'll go tiny mouth. So looking at the moment, the reason I like to do these exercises is because I'm starting to see what reminds me of a panda. Very quickly, I can go, oh yeah, it kind of reminds me of a panda. Now I have skipped ahead, so I've given you a bit of a preview. That could be your warm-up. I'm actually going to show you my original warm-up first, so I've leaked content a bit too early there. So before I do usually start drawing faces, we'll work over here. So what I like to do is just sit and put my pen on the paper, and I like to just drag, not looking, not really caring, get a bit of peace and quiet. If you're a parent, you appreciate that. I know I certainly do. But if you get a bit of peace and quiet, it's nice to just do this sometimes. So I'm just going to go back to that word pareidolia. What I want you to do is just sit for 20-30 seconds and just drag your pen around the page, making squiggles, making lines, making circles. Try not to lift your pen off the piece of paper. As I say, this is an artist called John Bergerman, and I think it's good to share artists with people and expose people to new artists. So yeah, John Bergerman. And this is a process that he uses, and I think the reason that I like to share it, as I say, is it's just a nice way to warm up. So before we jump back into doing our faces, let's just have a little go at this, see how it makes you feel. So just going to draw with my eyes closed for 30 seconds. Okay, there's your art. Put that one on your fridge. Family will appreciate it. So the reason I like to do this sometimes is I've added a quick little pandas, sort of a panda, little bear, little rabbit, little fox shape to this face over here. What I like to do with this exercise and how it helps me later on is not necessarily always drawing a shape that looks like a realistic fox, or it looks like a realistic panda, or a realistic rabbit. If I go back to this screen on my iPad, there's lots of characters. If I just go, back to this slide here, often this character here, people always associate as a rabbit. You know, you're using shapes to communicate with people. So if we think about a rabbit, we instantly think of things like the ears, we think about the cheeks, you know, the whiskers. It's the same with a cat. If you think about breaking a cat down into a simple shape, you know, you have your triangle nose, you have your pointy ears. This often gets referred to as the cat. As I say, I think it's just because you're putting shapes in front of people that we recognize, and they act as symbols. So just going back to this little drawing here, straight away, I'm looking at this area right here. And the reason is because I've got this space here and I've got this space here. So straight away, I can come in and I can identify that as a face and this bit here as a head. So I might add a little nose there, or maybe give it some whiskers, and it comes down. Now, if I look at that as a shape, the way that I would translate that into drawing perhaps, or using that shape as a character, is thinking about this squiggly bit at the bottom. So maybe using bits like this to pick it out, or going with the opposite. So going with the bottom like this, coming up and using it for the top. I think straying away from just using your circle, your triangle and square for your faces is a really good idea. Now, interestingly, when I've drawn this, I've noticed that the eyes are sat at the side of the face. So if I translate that into these two shapes here, this composition, the way that I've spaced these apart, has just come from doing a bit of blind drawing. I like being able to pick out faces. I like being able to pick out shapes. As I say, it's a nice kind of exercise to keep your brain ticking, is to look for shapes that exist around you and in your environment. Once you kind of see them, you can't unsee them. Car is a classic one. You know, you've got, as I say, your two lights, your bumper. It makes a formation almost of a face. So kind of moving forward from here, if I was kind of draw a character, and I've done this little warm-up exercise, I've got a few shapes in there that I might want to use. There's this kind of circular shape here, but it's also got the rigidness, so it's more of a sort of hot dog little shape in there. I've got a bit of a cat's paw going on there, so we'll go a little trail up here. So really, really simple, little cat's paws. I don't make things too complex at this point, but this is quite an interesting shape here. So we'll go 1, 2, 3. Number 3 you might not use as a character face. Oh, we'll try it. So I'll do with the eyes on the side. Eyes on the side. And then what sort of nose would that have? A little upside down heart. Kind of looks a bit like a jellyfish. What I'd probably use that shape for though, if I stem away up here, I'd probably use that more as a nose. So if I apply that, actually, we'll not do a new one. We'll just use that shape and we'll make it a bit smaller for something like this character. Kind of looks like a bit of a mustache now. So give it a little smile. Yeah, feels like it needs a little swirly eyebrow. Let's try it on this character. So we'll take this hot dog shape with the curls. There's a bit of a bump in the table there, excuse that. I can hear somebody banging out that new Post Malone album, it's a good one. Yeah, why don't we go whiskers. So there I've just come up with some really simple shapes, really simple faces, and it's all stemmed from just doing this little exercise here. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a little game to play. Can be a fun little exercise that you try with friends and family. Could be something that you do next time you're struggling to draw a character. Just have a go at doing something like this. I think straying away from using conventional shapes, you know, your circles for your faces, sometimes this just brings out a bit more of an interesting dynamic. Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can spot any more. So we've got the head over here. I've used the hot dog, sort of that shape there. We've got the cat's paw. You know, even to thing in drawing stuff like a cat's paw there, you know, it's a really, really quick cartoon, but you've got this line that comes up, and then it kind of, paw just comes and sinks in. So you might add some little nails at the end of that. Got a little cat's paw. I'd be interested to see what you've drawn, your blind drawings. Yeah, let me know. It'd be really, really cool to see. So I'm going to move on to the real kind of exercise. Now, we will still maybe come back to this. But what I really want to focus on today is, yeah, using simple shapes and translating that into making characters feel, give a different feeling. So I use the term developing empathy. So what I mean by that is, just get my iPad back on. Hopefully we've got it. Cool. So, just gotta wait for a bit of technology. This is why pens and paper are great. So I'm just gonna put on a slide real quick in case my battery goes. But here is an example of translating shapes into taking the base form and then kind of putting over the eyes that you choose to use, or the nose shape, or the mouth shape. So you can see, if I look at, oh, it's gone off there. You had a glimpse of it, so I'll wait for a bit of recharging. I'll just draw it on here. This is why you don't rely on technology all the time. So I like drawing cats, so I might use a bit of a cat character for this. If we go back to our circle, a triangle, another circle, and a rectangle. So I like drawing, let's translate that into droopy eyes. So a bit sleepy, a bit sleepy. We'll just do a normal size sort of nose. We'll keep the triangle. Instead of the rectangle, let's just give it a nice big smile. Maybe a little tongue, little tooth. Like my son wanting to come and draw. So with the second one, down here, I'm going to do tiny eyes, or much smaller eyes. And we're going to do, let's do a big nose. And then let's do tiny mouth. So if you look at the formation I've chosen to use for number 2, sorry I didn't draw the base shape for it. Number 2. This has a completely different look and feel to this one above it. So I'll use the same shapes and I'll actually just do a third one just so I can compare them. So let's do big eye. We'll do tiny nose or smaller nose. And then we'll do, let's do big mouth. So I would say that that has a bit more of a cuter look to it. I like drawing Yetis. When I get some juice back in the iPad, I'll pull them up on the screen. But there's a recent project that I worked on whereby I had to draw Yeti characters. So think about how I would draw a Yeti. So if we go back to that shape from the start, something like that, real rough. The Yeti needs little horns. So I like to put the Yeti faces in circles. If any of you have seen Adventure Time, kind of a lot of the characters, I always think of Finn with his little circular head because he has the kind of that sort of shape. So it's a good idea to be watching. If this is something that you want to do, perhaps as a career, I would suggest, you know, just involving yourself in watching animations, watching illustrations, getting your parents to try and buy you books, if you're perhaps thinking about studying it, purchasing books from artists and illustrators that you're interested in, because what you'll find is their processes, you'll see their techniques. I'm only sharing a few with you today of my own, but you'll find that everybody works in different ways. I came into doing artwork about 8-9 years ago, so a bit late to the game, but it's just something that I've always been interested in. As I say, playing video games, liking animations. So yeah, I think it's really important if it's something that you are going to do as a career, just really kind of dive in, you know. If you're using social media, go follow people, get yourself kind of regularly checking out people's artwork. I think to kind of know what's going on in the world, you've got to sort of absorb yourself into it. And if you haven't watched Adventure Time, go and do it straight after this. Seriously, go and watch it. We're good for time? Cool. 10 to. Oh, cool. I just had no clock around me. So we'll go back to the Yeti character. Okay. I'll just draw this Yeti a few times. Bit of a chunky one there. So if I take this logic of circles, triangles, and rectangles, just put it into the Yeti's face. Let's go big eye, big eye. The reason I'm doing this with a face or a shape around it is because you'll get a bit more of an idea of how it will look in terms of giving a different emotion, giving a different feeling. So let's go for King Kong nose. Let's go for a heart. If you've watched King Kong the film, now you won't unsee it. He's got a very big heart for a nose. Looks a bit like an owl at the moment with the pointy shapes. And then we'll go big grinning. Looks kind of evil Yeti at the minute. Let's give it some little eyes. And I like to do little wisps and little curls, and little fringes. Okay, so we've got Yeti 1, we've got Yeti 2. With Yeti 2, let's make this a bit smaller. And we'll go same nose. I flipped it. We'll go tiny mouth. So if we think about that word empathy, just going to add some little dots, some little cheeks. Okay. So if we look at the difference between the two, 2 has a bit more of a kind of cuter look to it. Now, there's lots of different kind of theories and practices as to why this logic works. So if we think about how kind of babies' shapes, babies' faces develop, how babies kind of born into this world, faces aren't like fully developed when first born. So if we take that kind of psychology and apply that to what we're drawing, this has got a bit more of a kind of baby, a bit more of a cuter look to it. It's got those kind of smaller eyes, a bit more innocent looking. They are further and spaced apart. Let's have a go at drawing the exact same shapes. Kind of like Space Invaders these, I guess. And we'll put the eyes a bit closer together. We'll put a tiny little nose, and we'll put a tiny little mouth there. And put some big cheeks. So it has that kind of infant look to it, less developed, because we've drawn it small, we've drawn it closer together. Something really kind of interesting, and it never really stuck out to me until I kind of started drawing shapes. So I've mentioned that I like to draw with very, very round and kind of, I don't really use, if I do draw things like horns, rather than them having kind of really pointy edges, I like to kind of round things off a bit. So this area here, round, we've got sharp. What you're told to stay away from as a child? Knives, sharp draw, anything at the moment. I'm telling my little son to stay away from everything because he just picks it up and throws it. It's chaos. But it's particularly stay away from the sharp things. If we think about this logic of kind of sharp and round, when you're told to stay away from sharp things because they're dangerous to you, when we're drawing characters, if I just ever so slightly change the shape of this Yeti, so I'll do one over here. If we go round from the top, but pointy at the bottom, it's almost a bit more like a lion's mane, but it's pointier. I still wouldn't say it looks very dangerous because we've got this big curve up here. But what about if we add some triangles? Triangles are the shape that you want to use if you're trying to have a character that's a bit more dangerous, or might be the sort of the antagonist in your story. Let's just put a little shape in there. Little body. So we'll just pop a little face on this one. Let's use a little fringe. We'll go with big eyes. Now the big eyes are quite intense. We'll go for a small nose. And we'll go for a small mouth. So I won't necessarily say it looks evil, but it looks a bit more conspicuous. Just shade in it. So just going back to kind of your adventure time. Get this little dinosaur out of the way for a sec. If you go back to adventure time, if we think about, and I'll use this logic hopefully within something that's kind of that most of you will kind of have watched. So if we think about where Finn and Jake live, so we've got Finn and Jake treehouse. So their treehouse, this is going to be an awful treehouse. I'm not going to draw the treehouse, I'm going to save the embarrassment. But they live in a very curvy. There's my awful treehouse right now. There's like a weird cactus in the windows. There we go. Sure you can draw a better one. But they live in a really curvy and a really nice sort of environment. This is our happy place. Now if we think about the sad, unhappy Ice King, Ice King's a bit different. Ice King lives in a place full of big triangles. Yeah, for sure.
Who's your favourite Adventure Time character?
My favourite, I love Jake. So I met a few years ago at a festival. I met Andy Rustano, who draws he drew all the characters for it. And I wish I got him to draw Jake, but he drew me Beemo. I've got a very, very soft spot for Beemo, I have to be honest.
Last Halloween I dressed up as Beemo.
Did you?
Yeah.
What did you do? Just buy like a big box?
No, I made it out of felt, like a big giant Beemo. I'll show you.
With all the buttons on?
With all the buttons on, yeah. So big from scratch.
So with the screen, was your face just like sticking out of it?
Yeah, so like mesh. Sorry, that's it.
That's all right. I'm glad there's somebody who likes Adventure Time. That's good. Yeah, I'd be excited. I'd be intrigued to know who everybody's favorite character is. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like Jake. He's cheeky, but I don't know. Who doesn't like Beemo? You know, the Ice King though, he's a big softie. So, yeah, we've got a happy place with Finn and Jake. So if we look at the shapes that are there, you know, we've got a very round, very kind of friendly and approachable Ice King. We've got our unhappy. We've got our triangles. Stay away. So you can take that kind of understanding that you're given as a child and apply that to drawing characters. If you're drawing something that is perhaps your baddie or your antagonist or somebody that you don't want to kind of portray as good as such, yeah, try and exaggerate their features. I think this theory kind of applies to, I've used Adventure Time there just because I'm a big fan, but if you think about Lord of the Rings is a good one. The Hobbits all live in a very, very circular, friendly, green, very natural place. You know, you think of like Sauron's Tower, you know, you've got your reds in terms of your colours, you've got your sharp, triangular objects. Yeah, I'm just kind of having a look. Little happy accidents happened up here with this little character. I'm just going to circle it. So I drew that one earlier on, and I turned the paper upside down. I actually like how the eyes are sat on the edge with the little pointy bits at the bottom. So I'm going to have a go at drawing that real quickly. So it's my very square shape. But the eyes are sat here. I like when this happens, when you just spot a shape that works. Yeah, we'll go a triangle. Obviously, it's going to look like a bit of a weird dog. So yet again, I could give that little cat ears, I could give it little fox ears, but why don't we just go, okay, well, no, let's make it more like a rabbit, a bit looser. I like adding these little dots. I like having dots to characters' faces. I think it just gives a bit of cuteness. Yet again, the way that we recognise human faces, these dots and these little features that we can add to our characters lend themselves well to convincing people that you've sort of got a bit of an animal in there. Most of us are going to think of a dog or a cat when we see those kind of like whisker shapes. If you're putting domesticated animals, if you're putting cute characteristics into your characters, who doesn't love cats and dogs? Nobody. If you're putting those features into your characters, you're going to make people feel certain ways about what it is that you're drawing. So yeah, I like adding big rosy cheeks to characters. I think of rosy cheeks, I think of like babies. Little dots and whiskers, I think of animals. So if you're trying to make people kind of empathize and go, oh, that's cute, then, try and include sort of animal characteristics. Yeah, you need some eyebrows, definitely. Eyebrows do a lot for characters. Oh, now he looks a bit evil. Let's play with eyebrows for a second. I'm going to draw him again. So, go big wavy ears. I'm not being too delicate with this. This is pretty much, if I'm drawing stuff, you can have a look at finished work. You can have a look at my final work on my social media or on my website. But I think, I sit and draw these things in front of people, and still get quite nervous about it because people look at it and might think, oh, that's not great, that's not incredible, it's not realistic. And it's like, well, no, it's not. I'm generating ideas. I think when you do kind of paid work for people as a professional, you have to kind of take your time with stuff. People are paying for it. If you think about it's a service as such, you want to kind of meet that with sort of professional standards. So yeah, take your time. You'll find that exercises like this don't just help you for one job. I carry a little sketchbook with me, or I carry my iPad a lot of the time. And what happens is characters will get drawn while I'm doing exercises like this in my little personal sketchbook, and then it'll get recycled and reused much later on. If any of you have seen, or if anybody's seen The Amazing World of Gumball, I watched a talk a few years ago by one of the artists on that show, and he speaks about using characters for kind of his own vices. Like he likes to sit and draw, likes to sit and draw things in his room, or if he's on the bus, on the train, it's a nice way to pass time. And yet again, I really appreciate now that I've got a 1-year-old, just that peace and quiet on the train, just nice little drawing. You can reuse stuff in later projects. So there was a bunch of characters that I showed at the start. I don't know if I have any battery yet. Let's see. Yeah, no. Oh, 4%. That'll be enough to share. So a bunch of... Actually, I'll go back just to prove that I'm not lying. No.
Whilst you're loading that up, Cal, can I ask a question that's come in from the audience?
What's that?
The question is, do you have a daily routine or a minimum drawing time per day that you do to keep in practice?
No, I don't set such boundaries. I know some people will draw for a minimum amount of time each day. But no, I think because I travel for work and commute, that's kind of the best time to do it. Or in an evening, just when I've switched off and relaxed. But no, I used to try and do like one drawing a day. You know, those like the Inktober challenges. And it's just like day 3 and I've let myself down. So I'm just like, damn. No, I'd love to. Yeah, I think, to be honest, kind of when it feels like it. So like generally, a lot of the time I'll like watch things and be like, oh, I really like the shape that somebody's used for a nose or for a mouth or for a head, and then might go away and just kind of sit and just do squiggles. And as I say, like, you know, I'm being quite vulnerable just doing this in front of people because I didn't do art, I didn't study it. So I'll look at things and go, oh, I don't draw very well. But then these ideas, these things here are what turn into, you know, what I get paid to do. So on my screen here, I don't know if, actually I've not shown you this, Heather, so can you see? So I did this like random, this is just an old drawing a while ago. So I had this little character here, this little mouse character there. Do you recognise it?
Yeah, it was on the poster.
Yeah, I ended up using it for the poster. And that's it, like, you know, just these rough ideas. And I got myself an iPad because, you know, to be honest with you, it's just, for me, double tap, undo. Who doesn't enjoy that? But it's just a nice way of being able to colour things up really quickly and just making sure that you've got, you know, as I say, your gallery or your sketchbook kind of as you go. So I've done this, when I did this little character exercise before, I'll just get up on the screen. So really rough. I've accessorized some of these with hats. But you can see at the top, we're using the same thing, we're using the circles, the triangle and the rectangle. And I'd asked an audience of children about how they felt these faces made them feel, or what they thought the emotions were that the characters had on their faces. So we've got vacant and confused, we've got lost, we've got cute, and then somebody said, this is the face when I see a Happy Meal over here. So we know that feeling. But yeah, I think it's good just having a little sketchbook. If any of you are kind of wondering what I'm on about, have a look on my website. But this character here, this one, was used eventually for the poster, obviously kind of adjusted. But yeah, rough sketches and things that I do, people don't often see. But I don't really do anything finished on the iPad. I get jealous of people using the iPad and they do these lovely illustrations, and I'm like, how do you do that? So I just use it as a sketchbook.
There was another question.
Okay, what's that?
Where did you get your frog scarf?
My frog scarf. If you go on Instagram and search people I know, it's from a lovely guy that I met in Germany last year called Timothy. So Timothy Winchester. So yeah, it's a very nice scarf.
Thank you. I was admiring it.
I know. Do you know what? I was going to put it on. I needed a bit of a paperweight, but yeah. I know. There you go, Tim. There you go.
There's another question.
Yeah.
I'm just going to continue.
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Are there any other art styles that you've tried and really enjoyed except your own?
Yeah. I guess, let me have a look. So, yeah, I guess it still kind of looks like my art style, but I'll draw maybe things like, I don't know, like random trees with shade in, or little textures, or stuff that I don't really share with people. I'll do illustrations where there's lots and lots of textures, so it's not as kind of clean and as neat as what I often draw. I guess it still kind of looks similar because it's 2D. I was happy with one or two things I've drawn in here. Where is it? I promise there's one drawing that I'm happy with. Oh, there it is, yeah. I never finished the second one. So that's kind of how I would draw and Procreate. So I guess if I'm drawing like freehand, or without. I know I'm still using a computer because I'm using the Apple Pencil. Is this not? Is this? It's not covering up the mic. This scarf, is it? Is that okay? Cool. Um, yeah, if I draw kind of freehand and I don't draw like using, so I use Adobe Illustrator a lot of the time for drawing. And the main reason I use it is because I grew up skateboarding and had an interest in skateboard graphics. And a lot of the companies that I liked the boards from had really clean style of graphics. And I was shown many years ago how to use Illustrator and to make really curvy and smooth lines. So when somebody showed me how to do that, I was like, oh, I can't draw like that, so it really appealed to me. But using the iPad, yeah, everything's just like freehand and a bit rougher, a bit more textured. So yeah, I guess it's not totally different. There's a bit of perspective to stuff. It's not as flat. I'll use things like textures, like for the skies. Um, I think most jobs that I've done in the last few years, it's kind of been in 2D, and it's been using like what would say like vector, so it's really clean artwork. But yeah, it'd be nice to kind of do some more stuff. I do a different style. I'll give you a little preview of something on here. So at the moment, let me just airdrop these. So I hope this kind of answers the question, because I think it's a different style. So that's kind of how I would draw something conventionally, I guess, in 2D. But what I've been trying to challenge myself to do over the last few years is to be able to draw stuff or make things and draw stuff in 3D, like that. So for me, it's completely different. I mean, it's still curvy and it's still kind of smooth, but taking something that you've drawn in 2D, using kind of a really limited color palette in terms of there's 2 colors there. For me, it's a real challenge trying to envision and trying to learn, I guess, how that will look in 3D. Real steep learning curve to learning the software and learning to work in this way. But to be honest with you, a lot of this here you can use as your reference. So when I'm doing like characters like the skeleton, I've kind of put the character in the software and almost, drawn over him to create the shapes in 3D. Yeah, I'll be putting that up, the finished thing. That's not finished yet, but I'll be putting that up on Instagram tomorrow for Halloween. But yeah, hopefully, does that class as a different style? I guess so. Yeah.
One more question.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. Keep going. No, it's cool.
So Molly says, do you name your characters, and do you have any advice for naming them?
Naming characters. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what? I only ever felt the pressure of naming them. There's a website called Pictofolio. It's in my links on kind of Instagram, and it's a character community. So you share your characters, and it's just like this community. So it's like Picto and then folio, like portfolio. Anyway, and when you put your characters up on there, you have to name them. So it's kind of pushed me to doing it. To be honest with you, though, a lot of work that I do, I don't have anything on here, but like I drew this character a while ago that was kind of like a cat, kind of like a lion, and put a little crown on it, and I was like, oh, it's kind of like my cat. So my cat, he passed away now, but I used to have a cat called Kupo. So it's like, right, well, that's now called Kupo.
My mum's cat's called Cooper.
Cooper. Ah, oh. Yeah. It's to be honest, I got my names. So it sounds weird saying this. So I named my cats from games that I played as a kid. So I used to play these games, like Final Fantasy games, when I was like super young. And then the characters from that, I named like my animals. And then subsequently, those names have been used for names of characters that I've drawn. So I've kind of given them my pet names that have come from games that I've played. I guess I don't know if that's good advice, but yeah. This doesn't have a name at the minute. It's just Skeleton Dude. If you can think of a name, please give me one. That'd be great.
Somebody said it's got a lovely Luigi's Mansion vibe.
Yeah. I love Luigi's Mansion. It's good. Yeah, as I say, I've just realised like that's an unfinished version. I'm going to do some things to it tonight. I've got to put some mist and some more fun things in it. Maybe like a little mouse running away at the front. But yeah. Well, that's it. I'm glad somebody's kind of said that. I grew up playing Nintendo games, so I think that's that's kind of where there's a spirit in, I guess, in what I'm drawing. So yeah.
Another question. I think we're almost running out of time. I'm looking over the time check plan. Around 17 minutes past 7. But our last question, I think, probably is: if you had the opportunity to do so, would you pitch your own idea for an animated show?
I guess I would. I think I teach animation and illustration as subjects, and the hard part of animation is just like sticking with things because it does take a long while. I think if anybody ever approached me, I would love to. But it's weird. I think I've done animation work. I've done animation work over the last few years, but seem to have been paid more for illustration. I don't know why, but yeah.
What would you pitch? Do you have any really cool burning ideas?
Not for a series, but I have individual ideas that I'd love to get funding for. So when kind of a lot of the students that I teach, you're teaching them how to pitch ideas to get funding. So that might be for a one-off film that you make, and then you enter into festivals to get exposure and to get more kind of interest in your work. So yeah, there's two ideas. Don't anybody be stealing them. One idea is about a bumblebee looking for water. In lockdown, I was sat in the park and just witnessed a bee just like dying, and I had a bag of Haribo and a bottle of water. So I like took the sugar and put it in the water, put it out for the bumblebee, and then just watched it drink and gulp it up, and then fly away like really happy. And I was like, a bumblebee looking for water. And then have another idea which is about a kind of Inuit sort of tribe. And a little girl getting lost at sea on an iceberg, and kind of collecting rubbish to build a raft because the iceberg's melting, and the rubbish being what kind of takes her back home. So yeah, they're the two that I want to do. Just need the time. So
I'm going to steal those now.
Yeah. If I see those come to fruition in the next few years, I'll be like, damn. No, thank you for the questions. I guess just kind of summarising what I've done with you, what I've kind of done this evening. It's I'll quickly. This is killing me, so I'm just going to put the eyes on this. It's a bit like things from Rain Man at the minute. But if I just give that a nice nose, whiskers. See what I said about the eyebrows? Evil, but it can be playful. The eyebrows as well, or even raise one. Just looks less evil. Eyebrows are really fun. If you grew up and you're a bit older, you'll know the Dairy Milk advert with the eyebrows. Yeah, there's laughs around, there's smiles around the room. Everyone remembers it. But eyebrows are really powerful. Put them on your characters, play about with them. The whole thing I've done here is just moving around shapes. To kind of develop different thoughts and different feelings towards characters that you're doing. I hope that you kind of had fun doing some drawing. If you did do any drawing, let me see it. It'd be cool to see. If you have any questions as well, feel free to ask on social media. Just a quick slide there that I didn't really show, but when I'm doing 1-2 characters, you'll see I draw things quite a lot of times. Just in completely different ways. Kind of a big head on that one. That actually is the character for the Bumblebee film. So there's the idea getting made. And there you go. There's evil Yeti and nice cute Yeti to end it on. Thanks very much for joining in. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'd love to see anything that you've drawn.